welcome you to this webinar, which is the third in our series on COVID-19. And we looked at COVID-19 in general, epidemiology and all that at the first. We looked at the impact on education at the second webinar. Both were held last year. Now that we are in the vaccine era, so to speak, we are now looking at concerns about the COVID-19 vaccine. And I want to thank all the panelists and welcome them. They'll be introduced duly as we go ahead. Let me just say that the Nigerian Academy of Sciences, the foremost independent scientific body in Nigeria, tasked with trying to bridge the evidence to policy gap in the country. So the Academy serves as a Supreme Court of Science in interpreting science and scientific findings for the purpose of evidence-informed policy making. And definitely COVID-19 is one of those kinds of things that presents a serious challenge for evidence to policy making. And we are happy to come up with this as one of the means or the ways whereby the Academy serves the role in evidence-informed policy making. So the objective today, as we know, is to discuss the principles of vaccination in general, because sometimes you need to go back to first principles, look at the public perceptions of COVID-19 vaccine, try to address vaccine hesitancy, and also see how Nigeria can effectively implement a COVID-19 vaccination. And that's where I think I'll stop, and I'll simply hand over to the president. It's my pleasure to call on the president of the Nigerian Academy of Science in the person of Professor Ekanem for opening remarks. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you, Doyin. Good morning, all. It's a pleasure for us in the Nigerian Academy of Science to host this webinar. Doyin has already told you a bit about the Academy, but for those who are joining us who don't know much about it, the Nigerian Academy of Science was established in 1977 and incorporated in 1986. And it remains the apex science body today in Nigeria. The Academy's main objectives, you've already been told, is to promote the growth, acquisition, and dissemination of scientific knowledge, and facilitate its use in the solution of major problems of national interest. The Academy is the national representative on the International Council of Science, that is Disu, which is an umbrella body for all science associations and unions. The Academy is also in the Inter-Academy Partnership, a body for all science academies, and is in the network of African Science Academies. In line with its mandate, the Academy continues to assist government in addressing national problems that can be solved by application of science. And COVID-19, like Doyin already told you, the pandemic is one of such problems. The year, you'll all agree with me that the year 2020 will always be remembered as a year when a tiny virus humbled the world. For the past year, countries developed and developing have gone through various interventions, including lockdowns in some cases. At a point, everything stood still, while gaps in every sector were thrown up. Countries engaged in risk communication and community engagement, as well as in vigorous case finding, testing, isolation, and case management. In the midst of these interventions, misinformation, rumors, and conspiracy theories have thrived. In fact, some conspiracy theories even contradict each other. In October 2020, with the support from the US National Academies, the Nigerian Academy of Science held 4 bilingual webinars in collaboration with the Academies of Ghana, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, and Senegal. These were dissemination events for reports on COVID-19 in Africa. We also plan to hold soon a roundtable to discuss evidence-informed policymaking in the Nigerian COVID-19 response. The topic for this webinar, which is the third in the series, COVID-19 concerns, challenges, and Nigeria's plan, is a topic that is apt at this moment, when there's so much confusion around COVID-19 vaccine. This webinar will address COVID-19 concerns, challenges, and Nigeria's plan. I'm here to educate us. And on behalf of the Nigerian Academy of Science, I'd like to thank the presenters who are very, very busy people for making out time to lead this conversation on perception of COVID-19 vaccines, factors contributed to vaccine hesitancy, and how Nigeria can be better positioned for effective implementation of a COVID-19 vaccine development plan. By the end of the webinar, we should be able to harvest actionable recommendations for managers of COVID-19 response in Nigeria. I wish you all a pleasant experience at this meeting. Good morning once again and welcome. Thank you. Out. Over.
Thank you, ma'am. So I think it's now appropriate. I saw her earlier, but not currently, to have Professor Oluwatoyin Odeku, who should be the moderator, take over, but I can't find her here.
I think her connection is, she lost her connection. She'll be back soon.
Okay, so without, I think I can say just a few words, you know, about some of the people and to save time. So first, I mean, we have Professor Richard Adegbola here, who will be the first to speak. And Professor Adegbola is currently a consultant to the Nigerian Institute for Medical Research. Before then, he actually worked supervising vaccine development, if I got that right. I don't know the title it's actually called, in Belgium for about 6 years. Then he's been with the Gates Foundation also for some years before returning to Nigeria now. I mean, I think we went first to Gambia, if I'm right. He's been a visiting professor in the UK. Then he worked for Big Pharma, supervising vaccine development for some years. Then he was with Gates Foundation for some years, and now back in Nigeria as a consultant to the Nigerian Institute for Medical Research. And of course, happily, he's a fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Science. So he will be speaking to us first on the on an overview of vaccines. You know, what are they? Why do you use them? And how? And we have Dr. Yahya Disu, who also is well experienced in healthcare in Nigeria. Dr. Disu has been a medical officer of health in Lagos, so really understands grassroots issues in healthcare in the country. And currently he's the head of risk communications with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. And I've worked with Dr. Disu for quite some years. And I know the expertise and the knowledge that he embodies. So we look forward to hearing him. He'll be speaking on disease containment, why, I mean, the issues of non-pharmaceutical interventions versus vaccines. You know, so what's the place of all the mask usage and social distancing and all of those things? And then we will have Professor Tomori. He's not yet on, but I know he's just landed in Abuja, so he will soon connect. And he will be speaking to us from his experience as the chairman. He's currently chairman, Ministerial Expert Advisory Committee on COVID-19. That is the Expert Advisory Committee to the Minister of Health. But he was also chairman of the Polio Eradication Committee. So he's actually speaking in that capacity today to share with us how you overcome vaccine hesitancy, drawing from the lessons from polio eradication, which really had a big battle in that area. So when he comes on, he will be sharing that with us. You know, what do you do with that? And then before we close, we should have the Executive Director of the National Primary Health Care Development Agency in the person of Dr. Faisal Shuaib. You know, NPHCDA is the one actually in charge of vaccines and immunization in Nigeria. So he'll be addressing us on Nigeria's COVID-19 vaccine deployment plan, you know, in general. So that's the layout of what we have today. And it's my pleasure, therefore, now to have Professor Richard Adegbola to have the floor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tony, for the kind introduction. And to thank you and the team at the NAS, from our president and the rest of us, for thinking it wise to organize a seminar like this, particularly at this time when it is very topical and relevant. And so without much ado, let me just get on with it. I want to share my slide. Can you see my slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We can.
Okay, good. I'm going to get this started in the next 10 minutes or so to talk on overview of vaccines, what, why, and how, as part of the Nigerian Academy of Science COVID-19 webinar series. And like I said, this is very topical at this time. So this is what I'll be covering in the next 10 minutes or so. What are vaccines and how are they made and how do they work? And safety and effectiveness of vaccines, values and benefits of vaccines, and counting the COVID-19 vaccine candidates in the work and just telling you how many are they and where are they now in types and status. And then what about the myths and trust about vaccines and how do we deal with them? So let's get started. What are vaccines and how do they work? Vaccines are biological products which prevent diseases that can be dangerous or even deadly. And they work with our body's natural defenses to safely develop protection against specific diseases. Once introduced to the body, a vaccine helps our immune system to produce antibodies and cellular response. We talk most of the time about antibodies, but there's also a component that is cellular in the process, such that after getting vaccinated, there is protection against that disease without having to get the disease in the first instance. Unlike most medicines, which treat and cure diseases, vaccines, at least most of them, prevent them. And how are vaccines made then? There are three main approaches to making a vaccine. One of them is to use a whole virus or bacterium that is weakened or attenuated or even killed, such that when you introduce it to the body, it can induce immune response, but it will not cause disease. But you can also use fragments or parts of the microorganism that can trigger immune system to produce the effect that can kill the organism. Or you can just use the genetic material. I want to remark here that all of these processes have actually been used in the making of the COVID vaccines by different investigators and scientists. But vaccine development itself is a whole process and it is complex from inception to its use. It starts once you establish that there's a problem, like the pandemic, there's a disease that's affecting people. And then you start with preclinical research and development, which is focused on actually identifying an agent that can be used to induce immune response. It then moves on to clinical trials and safety evaluations. And once that is done and acceptable, then you do manufacturing to GMP standard. That is good manufacturing practice, SOPs. And once you get to that, then you can submit all the data to regulatory authorities for approval, vaccine introduction, and yet for another series of studies to show that the vaccine is effective, including pharmacovigilance for safety monitoring, throughout the life cycle of the vaccine itself. So in practice, what do we do? The clinical studies and safety evaluations come in three distinct phases, and the key is safety and immunogenicity. In phase one, you use adult volunteers, usually in small numbers, 20 to 80, monitoring for safety and immunogenicity on a vaccine that you have accepted as testable from preclinical study. And if you're happy with that, the next phase is phase two. You increase the number of volunteers. And at this phase, you can actually randomize into two groups, those that are receiving the product and those that are not, and comparing the immune responses that you see in them. It's a proof of concept stage. Again, you can look at the dose and how do you spread them out at this phase. If you're happy and satisfied with that, without any safety issue, then you move to large numbers of people in thousands for the clinical efficacy trials. Again, for safety, immunogenicity, and whether or not you're getting the desired effect of the vaccine in the community. As you will see that down below, the safety evaluation covers local, systemic, adverse events, and severe adverse events measurements. But in addition to clinical profile, you actually look at other parameters. the scheduling, how are you going to, the number of doses, how are you going to space them out, route of administration, thermostability of the vaccine, and how do you store them, ease of manufacturing and quality controls, cost and health economics, and social political engagement to set the scene, the stage, so that when you eventually have the product, people will be willing to use it. Now, once you get to the approval and vaccine introduction stage, in other words, say you developed the vaccine, you've done all these trials, and you've submitted your data to NAFDAC, for example, in Nigeria, and they've approved it, then you still need to do what, as you introduce the vaccine under routine measures, you then do an effectiveness study. Is this vaccine as effective under routine use as compared to all those efficacy controlled trials that you use in developing them? And here you measure the direct and indirect effect. You've heard about herd effects. This is where you have the total measure of the direct vaccine-induced effect on the individual vaccinated and those unvaccinated at population level. And what this gives you as outcome is protection against the disease under field conditions. So what are the benefits of vaccines and vaccination then? With the exception of safe water, no other modality, not even antibiotics, has had such a major effect on mortality reduction. Each year, worldwide, vaccines prevent up to 2-3 million deaths. Just think about that. And smallpox was eradicated by vaccination in 1980 as the only human disease so far eradicated. And polio is another disease that is likely to be eradicated soon. In Africa was declared wild polio-free on 25th of 2020. Thanks to the efforts in Nigeria, the government, the stakeholders, and the global partners. And for me, it shows what we can do even in Nigeria if we put our mind and words and heart to it. And in terms of investment, for each dollar invested in immunizations, it has been shown that $16 are generated in economic return to the community in low and middle income countries. And so the pandemic came, and we all cannot deny the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic has finally unleashed a new normal. Even the famous Mona Lisa and other popular statues now across the world, even including our own Lagos, they wear masks and carry sanitizers as a reminder. And the global response was accelerated COVID-19 vaccine development with a component for equitable access. And all the measures that I mentioned earlier on are being used in developing these vaccines. So we have live attenuated or weakened SARS-CoV-2 vaccines, protein-based vaccines, viral vector vaccines like the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine that's being used in Nigeria, the DNA and RNA vaccines, and viral-like protein vaccines as well. In all these methods and whatever methods are used, it is critical that they are demonstrated to be safe and effective. And there have been concerns about, we have rapidly got this vaccine together within 1 year. And should we be concerned? No. Although the traditional ways of making the vaccine could take years, in fact, 5 to 10 years, as you see in the bottom here. But with pandemic, you cannot wait. And some movement have been made in times that manufacturing and development actually are now being done in parallel as you evaluate. And that is because governments and other global institutions were willing to offset the risk that is associated with investment by putting money upfront to say, as you test the vaccine, make them so that once they are approved, if they are approved, then they are ready for delivery. And one other important thing to mention before I leave this slide is that research and development that normally takes long time also did not at this time because of the experience that the scientists have had over time, in fact, about 20 years, that they've known about coronavirus, the biology and whatever. So it was actually easier to move rapidly. And with this now, the status of COVID-19 development at the moment, this slide is dynamic and rapidly evolving. So I'm not sure I know the numbers now. But on March 21, when I checked this out, 78 vaccines are in clinical trials on humans, 23 have reached the final stages of testing. And as you can see in the box below, you have these numbers, the various phases, and about a dozen now actually are in use, including the AstraZeneca vaccine that's being used in Nigeria. So those are the vaccines. Moving ahead, anti-vaxxers won't go away anytime soon. We must know it's a business. Health organizations and government need to be more audacious, louder, and strategic with their communication strategy. And with the means and information, we should know that COVID-19 has not gone, neither is it a political scam. It is still very much around, and we must do all we can to stay safe. In fact, the numbers again that I checked about 2 days ago for COVID-19 cases and deaths in Nigeria, we are already over 162,000 cases total and 2,030 deaths. And globally, it's 125 million cases, 124 million cases with 2.72 million deaths. These are unacceptable numbers. Drinking alcohol and pepper soup do not work against coronavirus. 5G technology doesn't spread COVID-19. We're dealing with a virus, not a telecom signal. Mosquitoes and houseflies do not spread the virus. Antibiotics and pneumonia vaccines cannot prevent the disease. And rinsing the nose with water containing salt does not work either. So what should we do? We should address misinformation with facts. Listening to community concerns to counter misinformation. COVID-19 vaccine will not give you the disease. People who got ill with COVID-19 may still benefit from getting vaccinated, and getting vaccinated can help prevent getting sick with COVID-19. COVID-19 vaccines will not cause you to test positive on COVID-19 viral tests. We should make this information as widely as possible so that others may know. And we need to know where to go for the latest information that are credible about COVID-19 vaccines. WHO website is clearly a site to go to. A Nigerian CDC website is updated from time to time with latest information. The Federal Ministry of Health in Nigeria, medical professional associations, and immunization centers. But what about you? Because we tend to talk about our government all the time, and I think we should see ourselves as champions. With vaccination, it starts with you. It starts with me. Get a COVID-19 vaccine when it's available to you. It can save your life. As you can see on the right in the picture, I can confirm I got mine. What about you? Share your experience and personal reasons for getting vaccinated with family and friends. Publicize how you receive the vaccine by sharing on social media and other communication platforms. And finally, hashtag wear your mask. Keep social distancing measures and practice frequent hand washing. Remember, there are SARS-CoV-2 variants of concern. We are not out of the woods yet. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Over.
Thank you very much, Professor Adegbola, for that wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. You have indeed educated us on what vaccine is, and what I find interesting are the myths that we have around it. I'm sorry I could not join the program at the beginning. I had some network issues just about the time the program was starting, because we have a heavy downpour currently in Ibadan. So thank you very much for that. Please, you can type in your questions at the question and answer section, and it will be taken during the discussion. An opinion poll, a general survey will appear right now on your screen. Please quickly take that and answer the questions. We want to find out whether people want to take the vaccine or not. And please quickly do that and submit, and then we'll continue. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we go to the next panelist. The next panelist is Dr. Disu, Yahya Disu, who will be talking about disease containment, MPI versus vaccine. Dr. Yahya Disu is a graduate of medicine and surgery from the University of Ibadan, and a public health physician with postgraduate degrees in public health. Dr. Disu is the head of Risk Communication Division and the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, and the chairman of National Risk Communication and Community Engagement Technical Group, and a member of the RCCE pillar of Presidential Task Force on COVID. So Dr. Disu will be speaking to us on disease containment, MPI versus vaccine. Thank you very much. Dr. Disu, over to you.
Very much. Good morning, the chairman of the academy and then senior colleagues, and then all protocols duly observed. And I want to, on behalf of Nigeria Center for Disease Control, express our gratitude for inviting us to come and speak and share our experience in this forum. And it is not something we take for granted. And we continue to see how Nigeria Academy of Science can support what we do to deliver our mandates to Nigerians. So the topic given to me is just to discuss around the disease containment strategy, MPI versus vaccination, and the issues around it. So we'll be looking at what is the effectiveness of vaccines compared to MPI measure, understand public compliance with MPIs compared to vaccine hesitancy, and why MPIs are necessary even when vaccines are available. So I won't say much. Professor Adegbola has really made my work very simple, because he has explained a lot that I will have struggled to explain, because he is an expert in that area. And so looking at non-pharmaceutical interventions, I won't be defining it because we all know what they are. So public health surveillance, people don't really see it as instrument that is non-pharmaceutical intervention. It is because it provides the data that let us understand the epidemic or the threats, and then to inform the public and the strategies for containing this. So every other thing we do is guided by this public health surveillance. So community hygiene and hospital infection control, this has to do with hand hygiene, disinfection, respiratory etiquette, and so on and so forth, both in the community level and in the hospital, waste management and so on. Then decrease social mixing or increase social distance. And this is about mass gathering, because understanding of how the virus spreads is through people. The virus spreads from person to person, and then through close contact from person to person, and then from place to place as people are infected, move around. So, and then workplace and social closing, school closings, I mean. This is when we're talking about the lockdown, and then restriction of travels, and then provision of necessities. And this is what we describe as palliatives in this part of the world, because it will make our MPI non-effective if we don't give people alternative means to meet the basic needs of life. The international travel and border control, isolation and quarantine, and so on. Now for the vaccines, Prof just mentioned them. So the one that we know for now, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca. With regards to effectiveness, there's still limited data to compare the two, but we know that NPIs have been proven to work for a very long period of time. Over 100 years ago, when there was Spanish flu, that was what was used. Basically, they reduce transmission of the virus by reducing contact rates in the population. And they have varying degree of effectiveness. Those MPI interventions I mentioned earlier, but they are most effective when they are combined, and that's been demonstrated. It now depends on the strategies that we want to use. A lot of factors come into play here. It can be mitigation or suppression. Basically, mitigation is about it's focused on protecting the vulnerables, those who are at risk of severe disease, and then by isolating the suspected cases and their contacts, and maybe at home or whatever strategy the country is adopting, and also ensuring that there is social distancing for those vulnerable population. And then for suppression is about is focusing on the entire population, social distancing among the entire population, combined with isolation of the suspected cases, and then with, of course, to the essence is to suppress the number of cases to the level that it is not of public health importance. And the two are used to buy time until vaccines are developed. Then technically, mitigation reduces the rate of spread of the vaccine, while suppression, that's the rate of spread of the vaccine, that is the R is still greater than 1, but is reducing. But for suppression, R is less than 1, and it's usually less than 1. So that means you really massively suppress it. Now, they raise ethical issues because they are central to society's commitment to freedom and social justice. When we say physical distance, it has implications for our social life. It has implications for our liberty, our economy, and so many things. So that is the major challenge that we experience with the implementation of NPIs. The lockdown, we all had a very terrible experience with it, but over time, as we learn more about the virus, then we're able to implement less stringent measures, like we use of face masks and physical distancing and so on. For the vaccine, like Prof said, they prevent developing severe COVID-19 disease by triggering immune response against the virus. While NPIs prevent transmission, they reduce transmission, but this is focused on developing severe disease, and so that we can reduce the mortality or fatality from it. And the vaccines work in different ways, depending on the type, as explained earlier by Prof. Then varying degree of effectiveness is also demonstrated by this vaccine. And then, of course, for vaccine to work, require an acceptable coverage to be impactful. And so it depends on so many other factors. Then suffer more from conspiracy theories. We thought we were having misinformation during initial aspect of COVID-19 response, but when vaccine came into the picture, we see that it shifted from the low socioeconomic class to the highest socioeconomic class. And even in Nigeria, we can see the kind of people that are talking about the vaccine can kill, they won't take it, and people who are influential are supposed to mobilize people under them and then to make sure that they will work collectively to achieve this goal. So the factors that affect the two are as follows. For NPI, political consideration. It depends on the trust. The basic factor here is trust in the government. If people don't trust government, and then it may be difficult to buy into what they are saying. They won't believe the vaccine is real, and we picked a lot of things from our social data and that inform our messaging and our strategy, communication strategy. And then also, when you compare two countries like China was able to use suppression strategy, which was almost impossible in the Western world, where they are using mitigation strategy. Where they implement that measure, they also even do it intermittently. So, and then you can see the rate at which China is able to contain this virus. So our political system style will also affect that. Then epidemiological factors, e.g. the burden of the disease. When we are at the stage of sporadic spread, then when you compare to community transmission, widespread community transmission, then the way you expect the NPI to work will vary. Then cultural factors, our faith, our culture, our way of life, lifestyle, housing, and so on, can influence or affect how NPI can be implemented. Technological factors, in an environment where technology, everything is driven by technology, it's easier to communicate information, it's easier to deliver services, it's easier to know the population you are dealing with, the size. For instance, when it comes to palliatives in Nigeria, we don't even know our population. We don't even understand the distribution. We don't even have data about the people who really need these services. And so many things when it comes to surveillance and so on, technology plays key role. It makes it easier in some countries that have them. Then economic consideration, very obvious. Nigeria is still suffering from the impact of lockdown now, and then legal consideration, because it affects people's rights. People have to make, and they have to sacrifice their rights, and then for public health interest. So this is where government has to come in. At what point should they do this in such a way that they minimally affect people's right to life and freedom. Then with vaccine, I won't say much about that. Host factors, vaccine characteristics, these are things that can affect effectiveness, the coverage. When it comes to supply, demand, these are things that can affect coverage. And then delivery strategy too is important. For instance, Nigeria, we know we won't have enough vaccine that will go around the whole population, but we are targeting our vulnerables, our healthcare workers who are at the highest risk of getting the disease. And because we want to sustain services. Mutation, having variants can also affect effectiveness of the vaccine. Then the cold chain integrity is another major factor that we need to consider, because it can affect potency of the vaccine. Because, for instance, Nigeria, we have a well-established cold chain system that we've been using for our vaccination, childhood vaccination, and so on and so forth. So now, when we are now looking at perception of the people about NPI and the vaccine, so I'm going to refer to weekly polls that we conduct through the PTF in conjunction with UK Cabinet Office, and then we use the NY platform to do these polls. And so it depends on the emerging issues. We determine the questions that we're going to set and then to ask people, the respondents. And this is usually done across the country and then all the states of the country. And the minimum sample size is usually about 1,632 or so. And then, so for this, what are you doing to protect yourself when we ask? And you can see the trend over time. Sorry, this thing is not showing. Okay. So you can see that face mask and hygiene is the one that people find easiest to do. Maybe because even before COVID-19, when you want to eat food, you may need to wash your hands. So people can count that as, okay, at least I wash my hands. They remember that time. And then also this is followed by wearing of face mask. But physical distancing is the most difficult for people to do. Several polls we have conducted have shown that although this is self-report from people. So sometimes we don't really rely on this, but then at least it guides us and we can see the trend. So when they ask, which of the 3 guidelines do you think is most effective in preventing coronavirus infection? So they feel face mask, but they prefer to wash hand more because that is easier for them. But if for national average is 46%, followed by hand washing and then followed by physical distancing. And maybe some percentage say, no, they don't know, they don't understand. So then we now can see the geopolitical distribution of findings, and it follows the same pattern across the geopolitical zone. So the North Central seems to have the highest. Are you aware that the president has signed the Coronavirus Disease Health Protection 2021, the regulation which makes the use of face masks mandatory in Nigeria? So we can see this was last week, the brown bars are last week, and before the last week, I think about a month ago, was the green bar. So there isn't much change. And we can see about 81% nationally that say they are aware of this. But are you in support of this? Then 82% of those who say they are aware say yes, they are in support of it. While 86%, that was around 4 of our polling last week, sorry, last month. But for the last week, the 86% said they are in support of that. And we can see the distribution across the geopolitical zone. So for those who say yes, why did they say so? 27% of them say it will help reduce the spread of the virus. And then while 22% say it is for our own good. And then it's coming from the president. 11% of them say, oh, if it's coming from the president, I think we should support it. Then it is for protection. 8% said because it is a regulation, and then it is good for our health and so on. The list is to minimize the danger of the virus. For those who say no, even though it's a smaller percentage, but we're more interested in this because this is what will really drive the messaging. So elderly people cannot wear it at 50%. Most people say no, that is waste of time. Why should we do we are giving allow this because LPG, we can't implement this with the elderly people. Then people can't afford the mask. People are hungry. It should not be forced. It should not be forced on people. That is not the most important issue in the country. It is an offense to human rights, just like what I said earlier. The virus is a scam in Nigeria. So 2% of that. When we saw this 2%, we said, oh, thank God. Maybe the experience of the second wave is changing the perception of the people. So if the vaccine were to become available in Nigeria today, will you take it? Now we're coming to vaccine. We've been doing this in round 2, round 3, round 4, when vaccination becomes the topical issue. So you can see, but the last one that was done, the last week poll, 67% of them say, oh, they would take it at national level. And then you can see across the political zone, almost the same pattern, but North Central seems to be having the highest so far. Now, do you think you will still need to take preventive measures after receiving coronavirus vaccine, like wear face masks, physical distancing, and hand washing? 82% of them at the national level said yes, they will still do that. That was the around 2. But now 86 in the last week poll. So which means it seems as if we're winning. And we can also say the distribution across the geopolitical. For those who say no, please. Okay, I will soon round up. It depends on the effectiveness of the vaccine. So that's why people say no. They may not comply with that. The vaccine has already done the cure. So why should we wear this? So that means not really understand why they are taking the vaccine. As Prof said, we need to put there. Some no need for it. So to what extent do you disagree with the following statement? Okay, with regards to vaccination with coronavirus will protect me and my family members from contracting the illness, as in whether you believe this or you will recommend further. I think I will share this slide. It's interesting to also mention this. What I talked about was the opinion polls we conduct through phone survey. But this is community polls, pilots that this is done through NPHCDA because we work together with NPHCDA in the communication, and they are leading on this, especially with the vaccine. So I can't explain the methodology, but we use the health educators in the local government. And then this was done across the geopolitical zone. 1 state was selected, and all local government and 1 ward and the settlement was selected. And they loaded the ODK with the questions. So when the question, if the vaccine were to become available in Nigeria today, will you take it? 75% of them said they will take it at national level. Then Yobe seems to have the highest, 88% said they will take it. Then this one is a general question about vaccination. And then have you received any of the following vaccines before? Just to understand how people respond to vaccination. So when they asked, 86% of them said they have received. And then those who say yes, why? And then those who say no. It's a different reason. It's not so different from the others we have been saying. And then these are select quotes and levers for messaging that from the community polling. So the green ones are showing the positive one, what people say that were written down. The vaccine will allow me to live long and stay with my children. I heard on radio that it will protect us and hence spread of COVID-19. While on the negative side, I heard it is not a potent vaccine. And then you also somebody say, Father, it kills and it's very harmful to the body. I am covered with the blood of Jesus. That's another expression. So, do you think you will need to take preventive measures after receiving the coronavirus vaccine? So it's still the same, what we got here, but phone survey showed 86%. But while opinion poll at the community level is showing 76%. Will you be willing to continue taking the preventive measures after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine? So it's still almost the same thing. So this is the last slide. So why MPIs are necessary even when vaccines are available? We know that because we said the MPIs reduce the spread transmission, while the vaccine that we have reduce the severity of the disease. So they complement each other. And I belong to one platform of infodemic managers, the first poll trained by WHO, where we analyze misinformation, conspiracy theories, and in one of them, this was last week. So one analysis of we call it said in the UK, daily vaccination rate has remained very constant over the past 5 weeks or so, despite the change in incidence rate, which is coming down. But in the US, daily vaccination rate is actually accelerating despite drop incidents. Although the context for this is to discuss the effect of misinformation or correct information and how it's affecting the consumption of the vaccine and so on. But I'm just bringing it out that the incidence seems to be dropping when we introduce the vaccination and then combined with the pharmaceutical, non-pharmaceutical intervention, lockdown, and so on. So coverage of the vaccine may take some time. So we still need this non-pharmaceutical intervention until we're able to achieve our target for the vaccine. For Nigeria, according to NPHCDA, Nigeria will cover 70% by 2020. So what happens before then? They've told us the plan. And then, so it's a question we all have to answer. In conclusion, this is a time for us to build community resilience to misinformation. We don't have to wait until something happens. It requires all of society approach, the government, the civil society organization, the community, the private sector, the media. Everyone needs to be on board. And that is what we are driving at now. Thank you very much for giving me this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Disu. Thank you for that wonderful lecture, even though you overshot the time allocated to you. And thanks for the wonderful data about the perception. And we have heard about the non-pharmaceutical intervention versus the vaccine. Please, I want to encourage participants, type your questions in the question and answer page. Don't write them at the comments. Some of you are dropping your questions at the comments. Please go to the question and answer just below your screen where you have the tab and put in your question. The next presenter is Professor Oyewale Tomori. I'm sure you have seen him once or twice, a number of times on the TV addressing the issue of vaccine, COVID-19 and vaccine. He's going to be talking about overcoming vaccine hesitancy, lessons from polio eradication. Professor Tomori is a renowned professor of virology with experience in viral infections, disease prevention, with experience in disease prevention and control. He's chairman, Ministerial Expert Advisory Committee on COVID-19 Health Sector Response. As chairman of the Nigerian Expert Review Committee on Polio Eradication and Routine Immunization from 2004 till date, he was instrumental to Nigeria's effort to eradicate polio in the country. Please welcome with me Professor Oyewale Tomori as he educates us on how we can overcome vaccine resistance. You're welcome, sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, would you like me to share from my end?
But we could see what he was sharing on blessings. Why are you?
Oh, okay, because I thought he was having issues.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for, I don't know, this, I'm trying to enlarge the whatever slide, but it's not coming out the way I want it. Uh-oh, something is happening.
Blessing, would you let him share? I think he's trying to control his own.
Okay.
No, that's okay. I prefer to control it for myself. I'm sorry.
Okay, sir.
Because you won't get it the way I want it. Can you see me now?
No, sir, you have to share your screen again, sir.
Yeah, okay, I have to do it again. I'm sorry for the whatever that is coming. But can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can see your screen, sir.
Okay, I'll just leave it like this one because I'm having some problem to expand. Okay, enlarge it so that you can see. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk. As you saw at the bottom, I said I'm a village virologist. That's why I don't have your back screen. I tried to do it, I didn't know how to do it. So forgive me for that one. But that is the same. As I looked at some of the questions at which I saw comments, I think we have more problems trying to correct information than some of the topics you want me to talk about. But I will let Richard to answer all those questions. I was really appalled by this number of questions that are asking. The questions people are still asking at this time bothers me that at this stage we should be asking those questions. I think this is the area we need to put our efforts on. But I will go on to what you told me to do because I'm always very obedient. So how do we overcome vaccine resistance? What lesson do we learn from polio? I'm putting that up not because of what he said, but because this is the best picture I've ever had in my life. So I want people to see it. And I'm looking quite nice there, if you don't like it. Now, higher education in Nigeria was raised that we started in 1995. We didn't finish until 2020. That's 25 years or more. That took us. And you can see that from that logo which I have there. This was for the presentation made in 1996, in which I said, will Nigeria finish last? And we did in Africa. And you can see it wasn't a race. We're crawling. I mean, imagine a lame person carrying the whole of Nigeria on his back. That's why it took us 25 years. Part of it was also because of vaccine hesitancy. I've done this map here so that you can see a collection of all that to show you the story of polio problem in Nigeria from 1995 up to 2019 or 2020 when we finished the work. And you can see virtually everything affected it: leadership, politics, social issues, elections, budget, everything you can imagine. And that's the same thing that you see happening. You're going to see this slide more, as time goes on. So the hesitancy we had against polio did not just happen because of polio. It happened because there was a foundational problem in the country. The foundation of past poor healthcare delivery, low routine immunization coverage, the population and the fertility program, which during the Babangida era, which was opposed by people for one reason or the other. Babangida's decision was the one that came up with 4 children per woman. And of course, this created a lot of problems, not just in the north, but also in the south. Who are you to control our population and that kind of thing. And then there's general distrust of the aggressive way that the mass campaign for polio was carried out in the absence of people where they had poor access to basic health care. And one of the things was that we kept hearing at that time, my children are dying of measles, and I go to the clinic, they don't have medicine for it. And now you are bringing this virus into my house, which is not causing, this vaccine to my house, which I know I can't see what is causing. Where the people are dying, you are not providing them with medicine to take care of them. They are dying of diarrhea, they are dying of measles. And then you are now coming, even bringing it to my house. I go out to go and look for things from your hospital, you don't have it. So those are the initial distrust that came about. What about the political context? Health is on concurrent list. The state has control over aspects of primary health care and secondary health care, while the federal has control over the tertiary. And therefore, immunization is under the primary health care system, which is controlled by each state government. So Kano state government was able to issue a directive to halt immunization exercise planned by the federal government, because I remember that was the party in Buhari's MPP, which are taking Obasanjo to court. And so the Kano MPP was also opposing the PDP-controlled program. And so then remember the Troban trial. I think I need to correct this one. There's such a lot of story. All newspapers are saying it was the Pfizer vaccine. It was not a vaccine. Please, let's get that clear. It was a drug that they came to try for meningitis, not a vaccine. And the message is now going on that Pfizer brought vaccine to Nigeria, to Kano, and killed people. That is not correct. Those are some of the misinformation we need to correct. Now, on the political side, so we had both political, religious, and even academic leaders. Some of us who are members of the best academic, but they want creating more of the problems. In Kano, in Zamfara, in Kaduna, they brought out this immunization camp to a halt. What did they do? They call on parents to reject polio vaccine and not allow their children to be vaccinated, because here one of the governors spoke and said, since September, the Muslim world is beginning to be suspicious of any move from the Western world. People have become really concerned about the polio vaccine. Another one of the leaders of the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria said, corrupted and tainted by evildoers from America and their Western allies. We believe that modern day Hitlers have deliberately adulterated the oral polio vaccine with anti-fertility drugs and viruses which are known to cause HIV and AIDS. That was the setup. And these are the states that were very visually affected. We Kano at the center, Katsina, Kaduna, Bauchi, and Jigawa. Those are the main areas. Not that just. Then back to this slide. You can see, let me quickly go through. You find that one thing I want to draw attention to, you see that green arrow, which is showing election. Those are the times we had national elections in this country. Almost every time we had national election, there was an upsurge following immediately. You can see in 1999, in 2003, in 2007, there was, they always get why, because the money we should use for vaccination had been used for campaign. And so we abandoned all those ones. So campaign was not going on. People were spending their money on the election campaign and no money for health. And so, of course, no vaccination was going on. And remember, that was the time, about 2002, that Boko Haram started, which means there was no access to the people. If you remember, one of the worst years for us was 2006, when we had over 1,000 samples. The boycott. Why did we have the boycott? The boycott in Nigeria was influenced by a complex of interplay. So when we are talking about looking at how we do about the next boycott, we need to do things to realize that it's not just one factor that caused it. Let me quickly go. So there was lack of trust in modern medicine. There was political and religious motive. There was this long history of betrayal by political people, you know, our political class, educated elite, and big business. And the spread of false information is not new. So what we need to learn, when we are going to stop people about, talk to people about boycotting and all this kind of information, we need proper research to understand why people are in the first place having fears about those diseases. Where did they get information from? Why are they afraid of vaccination? And what steps should we take to allay the people's fear? That's where it starts from. Depends on the information that people get. The government itself, our own government, should be sensitive to local politics, especially as they affect healthcare delivery. It's unfortunate that, you know, in Nigeria, federal government will do one thing. If I'm the opposition party, I will refuse to go there. And we understand, and I also understand that immunization campaign should be in which everybody participates, not just giving a directive from the NPHCDA. It should be down to the level people, because it's the people you are vaccinated. Just like with the stupid error we made again when this COVID vaccine came. What did we see on this thing? Everybody tumbling over themselves to show that they were the ones who brought vaccine to Nigeria. The people who were going to get the vaccine, nobody even brought them into the place. All we saw on the TV that it was WHO, the Ministry of Health, everybody, and we thank God we brought this, we brought them. What about people who received? You didn't bring them in. We are taking the public out of public health because we want to show ourselves that we're the one responsible for that. Public awareness and campaigns should be things that you go down to the people. So what do we need to do? We must stress the value of immunization and involve the media and television, use the available things. In my days, we used to have jesters coming around, you know, making fun, bringing it to local cinema. We didn't have that. In many of the areas in Nigeria today, they don't have DSTV. It is just those things that they still watch. And majority of our people are there. Those are the things we should be focusing on. We focus our attention on NTA and all those things, when the portion of our people who are seeing NTA are so minimal. So we need to get down to the level of our people. We must design systems that matches our level of development. There must be issue of social ethics. People must be told and what are they involved in what we're doing. And therefore, it's not just having the national NREC. We should have state REC. We should have even at the local community and have the community people involved. This is what we're doing with research. Have the few people who are there, who are educated, to get down to the people. We know also in this country that the president, if he comes to my village, if the village head is the one that says it, they will believe him, they won't believe why. These are things. So we need to get local people commission. So we need to seek local commission. And one of the greatest errors that we made, I'm showing that slide. This was what happened when we had the problem in Nigeria. Look at all the things that came in overwhelming Nigeria. CDC, USA, the GH, G12, US Secretariat, all coming to Nigeria, and they're all descending on Kano. This was a local problem. We escalated to a national decision. Is it the local man in Kano that is going to listen to, who knows Tedros in Nigeria, in my village? Who knows all those people? So instead of making this, sorting this out at the local level, we escalated many of these issues. And it shouldn't be. It's a local problem. And we as scientists, we have a role to understand and address the issue. I remember when I was in WHO during the time when this issue came, I said, look, this is a local Nigerian problem. Of course, nobody believed me until we brought it down to the local level. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very wonderful lecture. I'm sure we have looked at, we have been able to gain some important lessons that I'm sure will be very useful for us in this from polio that we can utilize for this COVID-19 pandemic. I want to request the panelists to please go to the question and answer section because we have a long list of questions, so that at the end we'll only please type your answer at the section and at the end of the presentations, you will be able to, you will go over and just give us a summary to educate people further. But I discovered there are a lot of questions on, there are a lot of misconception about the vaccine. Thank you. So please do that. And participants, please go to the Q&A section and type in your questions. Thank you. So we'll be listening to the last presentation, Nigeria's COVID vaccine deployment plan. How ready are we? By Dr. Faisal. Dr. Shuaib is a public health specialist and medical doctor. He oversees primary healthcare programs in Nigeria. His capacity as the executive director and chief executive officer of Nigeria's National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. He was in 2017 and led the final years of the polio eradication program. Dr. Shuaib is please join me to welcome Dr. Shuaib, who is the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria's National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. He was appointed to eradication. He's a WHO expert.
Thank you very much, the chair. The presentation is going to be the Director of Planning Statistics at the headquarters of NCDC. What images that may come in? The buckets, starting with background, then we'll look at data management and then some issues around logistics and accountability. And then lastly, we share some information around risk communication and demand generation. So now, as the way of background, a multi-sectorial background, technical working group was established in order to ensure that it coordinates all the activities around the response to COVID-19. Of course, the working groups were also having some sub-working groups like the planning and coordination, data management, vaccine safety, and then risk communication. And of course, the ED, also being a member of the Presidential Task Force of COVID-19, also provides a regular feedback to Economic Committee, ad hoc committee on COVID-19. So now, talking about the vaccines, yes, Nigeria has received, as we are all aware, the first tranche of the doses of AstraZeneca vaccines, which you have started already swinging into action. We received 3.9 million, of which you are all aware, I believe, and that is part of the 16 million doses that are supposed to come to Nigeria through the COVAX facility, of course, produced in India by the Serum Institute arrangement with the AstraZeneca Oxford University. And of course, just 2 days ago, we also received 300,000 doses of the same vaccines, courtesy of MTN, which pledges to give us 1.5 million doses of the same brand of the vaccines. And given the recent announcement on member countries, now the COVAX facility, to switch to Johnson & Johnson. And now we are looking at, instead of the 60 million doses, now we are looking at 29.85 million doses of Johnson & Johnson. And of course, we know Johnson & Johnson, it's not like AstraZeneca, it is just one shot. The World Health Organization and the European Medical Association or Medical Agency, and to a large extent, put a rest as to skepticism on the use of COVID-19. The AstraZeneca COVID-19 developer company and we have now realized during the course of us normally come in and that takes care of us to keep all our vaccines, major of our vaccines in this country for at least 6 months. AstraZeneca are committed to partnership with the university, which we are all aware, to ensure broad and equitable access globally. And because the company produce and sell without profit, that the now price comes down, to roughly $2 per dose. This is very important because it's an issue that people say why Nigeria chooses the cheapest vaccine. It is not that we choose it because it's the cheapest vaccine, but because of all other conditions are better off when it comes to Nigerian situation. And because the company is showing more humanitarian face in not going for any profit. That is why the price looks cheap. So the vaccine immunogenicity, efficacy, and safety were demonstrated in 4 phase 3 clinical trials in several countries that includes Brazil and some parts of South Africa and Kenya. And of course, the clinical data from these trials were supported by MHRA, UK, EMA, Europe, and other regulatory bodies indicated there. I don't know why it is not moving. Oh my God, it is not moving again. What is the problem? Aha, sorry for this. So now, just to give more additional information on the background, more than 32,000 volunteers took part in the trial, mostly in America, but also in Chile, to just confirm the safety. And it is also found that the vaccine was 79% effective at stopping symptomatic COVID disease and 100% effective at preventing people from falling seriously ill. And there were no safety issues regarding blood clots that were initially alleged, but for the trials that have happened so far, that has not been demonstrated. And this will further reassure some union countries, European Union countries that recently passed out of the vaccine. And of course, we are all aware they have resumed vaccination. So now going into planning, coordination, and service delivery, we developed an indigenous platform in terms of registration, which we call Teach Strategy. This is the first time in Nigeria that we are using electronic registry to register all immunization data. The T there, I believe many of us also witnessed the launching by the Honorable Minister of Health. T there stands for Traditional Vaccine Campaign Approach, which we are used to. And then the electronic self-registration by eligible Nigerians, where people will use the app and register themselves, schedule themselves, including the place and time for them to be vaccinated, as well as also the platform has the provision for somebody to assist another person, assisted electronic registration. And of course, the C there stands for concomitant, concomitant vaccination alongside registration. So while we are doing the registration, at the same time also we'll do the concomitant vaccination of those that are registered. And the last one is the house-to-house also strategy, which vaccinators are registered recorders will go house to house to register eligible candidates or clients. So now, in terms of the approach to the phases, we have blocked the eligible Nigerians into 4 phases. And phase 1, which currently is ongoing, it involves those people at risk, at high risk. We believe they should be considered. We need to protect the frontline workers, our frontline soldiers, and that involves the people, the health workers that manage the isolation centers, the health workers that also manage treatment centers, the health workers that happen to be at accident emergency, and of course their support staff like ambulance drivers, cleaners, and other people, and then first responders, frontline workers, and other health workers, as well as strategy leaders. So currently, this is what is ongoing. if you see immunization at various points, these are the first targets. These are the people who are now targeting to immunize, because we believe that we have just good reasons for that, as for the health workers who have already stated. And for strategic leaders, they show examples. At least the president took it, the vice president took it, governors, ministers took it, as we shall see subsequently. That demonstrates to the public that, look, this is something good, and I think the leaders have now shown example. So subsequently, we are going into phase 2, which involves adults above 50 years. And even that one, we have categorized it into 2, you know, those above 50 years and those that are within 50 to 49 years. And then the phase 3 will look at people that are between 15 to 49 years of age. And then even that one will look at those with comorbidities, like immunosuppressive diseases like cancer, you know, somebody like having the HIV, hypertension, diabetes, lung diseases, renal diseases, etc. You can see that we said 18 to 49, because we have already taken care of 50 and above. And then we said 18 because so far, the effectiveness as well as the safety of the vaccines in the lower age group, as well as pregnant mothers, has not been established. So that is why we stay within the safe time, the safe age of 18 and above. And then, of course, phase 4 is going to cover all the 18 to 49 years without any underlying disease. And by then, it is hoped that the whole country is covered. So now, to say some more information, which I've already mentioned, this slide I already explained. The frontline health workers are very clear, as I mentioned earlier, in the interest of time. Other health workers are also indicated, and then strategic leaders are also indicated, as I mentioned. And then the frontline non-health workers, like the oil and gas company, the security agencies, and the other people that have, very high communication with the public. These are what we call the frontline non-health workers. So now, NPHCDA and partners have trained in terms of capacity building over 100,000 health workers at various levels to guide the overall coordination and the implementation of COVID-19 vaccine introduction. To the left, you will see the manual. That is how the cover page looks like, the training manual, COVID-19 vaccine with the vaccine vial indicated there. And then the other side of the slide, you see the national and national level trainings that have already been concluded. The national level was done, of course, virtually, courtesy of COVID-19. This is one of the advantages of COVID-19. Of course, it is not that we wanted it, but at least, in as much as it came with damages, and of course, it also brought an opportunity for using other means, just like the way we are talking now with people that are from different places. And that's the level training were done physically. And of course, the world level and the LGA level were all done physically. And of course, with the on-the-job some aids. Yes, this is just what I said earlier. To the left was the doctor that was first immunized in Nigeria during the launching by my executive director, Dr. Faisal Shuaib, which is shown there. And then, of course, by the right, you will see the president himself immunized by his physician. And then this is how it goes. The vice president is also shown. And then the second person that was immunized at the National Hospital is also indicated. So it goes on, the photo gallery here. This is the immunization of the strategic leaders. You can see our minister, our DG NCDC, Minister of Information. It keeps on. You will see people were immunized. See governors. Kaduna, Ondo, Ekiti, Katsina, Lagos, Imo, Niger, and of course some very important people like Professor Oyewale Soyinka have taken the vaccine. So I think all these are showing the people that, look, this is something very good, and this is something that is safe, and this is something that you should all cooperate and take. Yes, the National Assembly are not left behind. In fact, the president or the Senate president tweeted that the Senate president congratulated the Presidential Task Force for working so hard to ensure that the vaccine is available for Nigerians. He, however, urged the PTF to get more of the vaccines and variety of it in addition to AstraZeneca. Likewise, if you look at the right side of the same slide, you will see also the Honorable Right Speaker, Afemi Bajabia Mila, with his own quote. So now going into the third bucket, that is to do with the data management and implementation dashboard. Yes, we are encouraging all eligible Nigerians to get vaccinated and protect their loved ones. The link is indicated. If you open that link, it will show people how they can register. Yes, so now going to the house registration, which was the last part of the teach strategy, which I earlier explained. This slide just indicates the flow. You know, introduction, the overview of the house-to-house registration component of the chief, and then recruitment of strategies for the recruitment house-to-house. This is how we did it. You know, we did the recruitment and then training of the house-to-house team, and then deployment of the house-to-house team, and then monitoring and supervision, you know, to ensure that registration ongoing. This process is what we have employed to ensure that the teach strategy is implemented. So now coming to the commencement of the vaccine introduction in the country, we see this is the map of Nigeria. A majority part of it is green, but specifically somebody would like to know why some of the states there are red. Clearly, we all know the issue with Kogi. That one, I think one doesn't need to overflow. We all know there are issues, but classically, when it comes to technical aspect of it, it is the cold chain was vandalized during the NSAS strike in the state, and up to now it has not been fixed. Therefore, we think it is unsafe for us to deploy vaccines to states where the safety in terms of handling is not guaranteed. And also, Oyo also has some issues there, subjecting it to some tests. So now, so far, as at yesterday, 215,000 eligible Nigerians have so far been vaccinated with the first dose of the COVID-19. Somebody will say, why 250? Remember, we are talking about the first phase. We are talking about our own health workers, you know, the frontliners as well as the support. So this is what has happened. The dashboard here has also shown. So now going towards the, you know, to break down those numbers so far received the vaccines, the states are there indicated, and then the coverage has been indicated. And this one, we're getting it every day. We meet every day by 8 p.m. To take, of course, we're getting the daily call-in data, and then the senior supervisors also report. So this is how the performance is state by state, just in the interest of time. So now going into vaccine logistics and accountability. As we are all aware, we prepared very well to receive the vaccines. We developed a dashboard and a tracker to ensure that we are following. And hello, am I hearing the voice?
Yes, you have 2 minutes to run.
Okay, so we made all necessary preparations from the national down to subnational to ensure that the vaccines were received in a good condition, and ensuring that it also reaches the targets in good condition. So this is a summary of this. And then, of course, the distribution of the vaccine so far for the health workers. We use road, we use the air, using the chartered cargo flights by COVID-19. So those states with airports, we send them directly through the airports. And those that don't have airports, we send them through the states that with the nearest airport. And of course, some states in the North Central, like Plateau and Benue and Nasarawa, we send them directly from Abuja. So this is what he's saying. Of course, the intrastate distribution also to the local governments at wards are also done. We have our solar refrigerators in all the wards that provide safety in terms of keeping the vaccines. Of course, security arrangement is also to ensure that the vaccines are not diverted. There are no sharp practices done using escorts of various security arms. Likewise, we are putting so many measures to ensure accountability. In fact, we have involved EFCC, ICPC, and giving them roles to ensure that the vaccines reach the target as at when due. So now these are the responsibilities of independent monitors that will also ensure that the right thing is done and any deviations are corrected or reported to the level of correction. Likewise, these are the roles of the ICPC. As I said, there are 4 major roles in terms of theft, embezzlement, service provision, vaccine availability, and advisory. So now going to the last is the demand generation. We identified about 63 groups, cohorts of stakeholders nationwide. And so far we have engaged 40 such cohorts of various stakeholders, and that engagement is ongoing. And of course, that one is also not just an introduction to stage them to get their buy-in and then create platform for subsequent discussions with the various groups that we have met and the ones that have been meeting. And of course, this is to show that credible and respected Nigerians from the traditional, religious, and academic sector continue to lend their voices to support government plan to produce vaccine. So these are all tweets by very, very important Nigerians that have experienced and sent ways of convincing people and also sharing experiences with people. So this is how it goes. This is a question and answer on the e-registration, community engagement, and Majgi show. We learned from folio, and of course it is showing results. We have pre-implementation as well as implementation activities that will ensure that the community are carried along during the Majgi show, the town hall meeting, and all other strategies that will ensure that we communicate and mobilize the public. The flow is also indicated, to know community to complain much. Likewise, town hall meetings are being organized in the zone, and state. The intersignatory go and directly communicate with the people. So this is validation. The call center we have that people can call and get some clarification. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I said earlier, this is a presentation by my Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Faisal Shuaib.
Very interesting presentation, and for giving us the statistics of where we are in Nigeria. I find it really heartwarming to know that there will be more donations coming in for the vaccine. That means those of us that do not have access to it will eventually do so. Thank you very much. I have deliberately allowed more time for the presenters because the presentations are really very important. But I discovered that we also have a long list of questions in the question and answer box. And we have about 35 questions with just a few of them that have been answered by the panelists. So I want the panelists to please, I'm going to give each of you, because our time is running and we have to close very soon. I'm going to give each of the panelists about 3 minutes to answer try to go over the questions that pertain to your presentation and quickly answer them so that that will form our discussion. Then if we have a little more time, we can take another round. So I want to hand over to the panelists, and I'll call Professor Richard Adegbola. You have about, I think I can make it about 5 minutes for you to speak to the questions that have been asked. And please, I still want the panelists to type in their response so that if we cannot go over all the questions, will at least those that ask the question will have a response to their question. So Professor Adegbola, you will answer the question about the vaccine. A lot of questions have been asked about the safety and all that. And I think a few questions were also typed at the question and answer box about can someone still contact the virus after vaccination? What are the effects of analgesic and on the immune response, and issues bordering on whether you have had the impacts of malaria or smallpox antibodies on COVID-19 and so on. So please, 5 minutes to round up and answer take all the comments. Thank you.
So thank you, the moderator, and I should thank all the panelists as well. It's been an honor to be part of this. I think I could make my suggestion to the academies to say we can actually, you can send us these questions so that we can respond to them, so that because I don't think we can go through all these questions within the time available. Okay, but I'll try my best. I've been trying to answer some of them, but I just can't catch up. Wonderful talk. Please please could one get the second dosage of the vaccine elsewhere from the first jab if you have traveled out of the country? The advice for now, because there is no data suggesting that you can mix vaccine doses. In other words, you cannot take AstraZeneca in Nigeria and then go and take Moderna in the US. So I think it's important to actually take the second dose where you have taken the first dose so that you are consistent with the vaccine that you are taking. What is the effect of analgesics or antipyretics on immune response? With regard to the use of that, actually the effect of that is actually on reducing your pain, or it has no direct effect on the immune response, actually, is what I'm trying to say with regard to COVID. But there's no data suggesting that there's any direct effect of analgesics on the responses that you get. But of course, that will alleviate your pain and what have you. And of course, you should follow the advice of your doctor or the healthcare provider with regards to that. Is it true that the vaccine against COVID-19 is being developed right here in Nigeria? I will defer to Professor Tomori to respond to that. I read things about that in the newspaper, but I'm not so sure about the details. Is it safe to say that COVID was rushed? Oh, no. So is it safe to say that COVID-19 was rushed and there could be adverse effects that may not manifest anytime soon? The COVID vaccine production, I think I mentioned that during my presentation. It was rushed in the sense that there's an emergency. So that's not unusual. The system of vaccine development that you follow when you are not in a haste, compared with when thousands of people are dying daily. So you have to balance risk versus benefits. But with regards to COVID-19 vaccine, it is clear that the science and safety evaluations were not affected. As I mentioned, what was done was shift forward because of advanced mechanism to make investments available so that the manufacturers were not worried whether or not the vaccine works or not, that they're going to lose their investment. Governments and other global institutions were willing to take the risk, if you like, of the manufacturers so that you can fast forward that process. The other thing that I mentioned that's important is that in the process of vaccine development, actually identifying the target or the potential vaccine candidate can take some time. But because we have understanding, because Professor Tomori, we know that they've been studying the coronavirus for like over 20 years now. So there was enough of background knowledge with regard to the biology of the organism. So that period was also shortened. But I can assure you that all the safety evaluations and the science of the products are not compromised at all. The next one is, can you expatiate on what you mean by variants of concern? I think I've mentioned that. Basically, is that the virus mutate anyway. Once all viruses mutate when they are subject to pressure. And so it's not surprising that you're having mutation, therefore variants for SARS-CoV-2. But the WHO has actually, for the avoidance of doubts or to ensure clarity, have identified those that are of concern, either because of their increased transmissibility or the ability to cause death. So that there's some of them that you need to be concerned and actually be set of surveillance to monitor them. And that has been set up by the NCDC in Nigeria to monitor emergence of surveillance that may be of concern. How long the vaccine expected to last?
Minute, sir. One more minute.
Okay, I just do a couple of questions more. How long, the question is how long the vaccine is expected to last in one's body? Well, that's not known yet. You know, this is a new vaccine, so the process of monitoring how long the duration of protection will be is underway. And that's why you do effectiveness study following the vaccine introduction. Some of the things that you do is with vaccine be as protective as it was during efficacy trial, or whether you're going to have safety issues, duration of protection, all those are done in this phase as you monitor the use of the vaccine across board. I think I'm going to stop there, but I'm willing to answer some of the questions here if the the academic can send them to me so that they can make them available to those who might want to know more. Thank you, moderator. Over.
Thank you very much, Professor Adegbola, for doing justice to those questions. I want to assure our participants that the presentations will be sent to your email, so you will have the full presentation after now. And the academy will also send the questions to the panelists, and they will strive to answer the questions, and it will also be forwarded to you. It's a very interesting topic, and I think there are very important issues that we really need to be educated more on. Thank you very much for that, Professor Adegbola. Next, I'll call on Dr. Disu to please answer some of the questions that have been. Once you see me appear on the screen, it's a signal that you have 1 more minute to go. Thank you, Dr. Disu. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma, once again. And I think I looked at the questions, the one pertaining to me, there are more comments than questions. And the only one is that I see that the question is, can they have my slide? And you have answered that. But if there are others, there are maybe the panel, the presenters, the organizers feel there are questions that relate to me, they can send and I can answer them. All right.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I think there is a question about 4 vaccines are listed. What are your views about the Sputnik and the China vaccine? That you listed 4 vaccines during your presentation. What are your views about the Sputnik and China vaccines?
Anyway, I don't have any particular preference, or I just listed examples of available vaccines in the market. I was just trying to say there are different types of vaccines. So different countries have their different preferences based on epidemiological data, other research that have been done. Maybe Professor Adegbola will even be in a better position to answer that question as to when it comes to Chinese vaccine. Thank you.
Moderator, I can quickly just make a statement about vaccine comparison. We have to be careful. There's unless you do head-to-head comparison of vaccines, you cannot begin to talk about one is better than the other, because there are factors that affect how you evaluate a vaccine. So they have to be tested in the same population at the same time, monitored in the same way, head-to-head, before you can begin to say begin to talk about one is better than the other. I hope that's helpful. Thank you. Over.
Yes, I think that answers it, because we have the issue of risk benefit, and of course there are other factors as to the population. I'll call on Professor Tomori to please answer some of the questions. I know there are a lot about vaccine hesitancy and all that. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, actually, I was looking for those hesitancies. I couldn't find them, but let me delve into what they asked me. There was the question about price, all those kind of things. I think we need to be realistic about what we are asking. If somebody comes to you and buys 1 million doses, and you buy 1,000 doses, you can't get the same price. So let's be realistic. Africa is going individually to go there and picking up 1,000 here, 2,000 there, and you say they're giving you a different price. Why would they give you a different price to the man who is coming with 1 million doses? So it's a matter of economics. So let's not deceive ourselves with this issue about this price here. Africa is being under culture, under thing. Africa has refused to come together as a group. If we put all our resources together and all the African countries come together and buy 200 million doses, we will get it at a cheaper price. So Richard has answered the issue of the efficacy. You cannot compare efficacy if you didn't do the same thing. For example, let me give you a good example. Some of the studies that were done during the big wave of the epidemic, some of the clinical trials. And some are done when the wave has gone down, when you are flattening the curve. So the chances of people getting infected and all those kind of things is much reduced. So like you said, you cannot say this efficacy is 10%. What WHO has said, there's a minimum that is expected. Once you reach that minimum, you're as good as you're ready to go. I think that's a big misconception about the fact that this COVID vaccine was rushed. I think it's a major, major misconception. What has happened is that it is what we call a plug and play kind of thing. The system for making vaccine have been in existence. They have used it for Zika. They have used it for chikungunya. They have used it for other things. But these are viruses diseases which are not worldwide. Nobody knows about them. So it was the same technique. So the foundation was already there. It is not the day you roof your house that you say you completed the house. The house started with a foundation before you put a window, before you put a distance. So saying that you finish the house the day you roof it is wrong. There's a foundation for vaccine production was already there. And all they did was just to plug it in. In any case, Ebola took about the same type of time. 2-3 years. Yellow fever took 25 years. And that also answered the question about what is the duration of ministry. You cannot know, you can only say duration as of the time we have tested. The clinical trial started 2 weeks ago, and I'm still having antibody. So up to 2 weeks, I have antibody. The clinical trial started a year ago, I still have antibody. So that's all you can use to measure the duration. Until you can, yellow fever now has been around since 1930 something. So you can say it lasts for 10 or more years. So people ask some questions that the issue is that we should not assign to a vaccine what the vaccine is not meant to do. Vaccine is not meant to prevent exposure. Vaccine is not meant to prevent your infection. Vaccine is meant to get that infection, stop you from becoming a disease and stop you from getting hospitalized. So don't assign to vaccine what it is not meant to do. So when they say you have gotten a vaccine, then you say you don't wear your mask. The vaccine can't stop you from being exposed. So you must continue to wear your mask. And in any case, it is not the day you get the jab that you develop immunity. There's still a time interval. And therefore, so if during the time you got the jab today and you get infected tomorrow and you come down with the disease and say the vaccine is not effective, it is not true. Your body has not yet developed the immunity for it. So there's a time interval for the immunity to develop. Now, the most important one is the part of vaccine production in Nigeria. Vaccine production in Nigeria is the reflection of the Nigerian system. We were producing vaccine before. They're still producing vaccine in form, aren't they? So why are we not producing now? It is self-interest overriding national interest. I'm not going to talk. One of these days, I'm going to write a story about local vaccine production. And I will, for the first time, I will expose all the things that have been going on, all the efforts that have been made, and all the efforts that have been made to make sure that this doesn't occur in Nigeria. It is we Nigerians who are creating the problems, and we have this problem of local vaccine production. And again, when we're talking about developing this thing, so central bank comes out and give you 10 million to go and run this thing. The foundation for running the basic thing is not there. It's just like another money wasted, and that's what is happening. Recently, I think they gave funds to about 4 different people to do something. To me, I think it's another waste of money. We're not addressing the major foundational issue. Most of our colleagues who have done vaccine development have done it with people outside the country. Come and do it in Nigeria with your electricity and other things. You will not. So let's bring to the fact and the reality of the situation and address the issue that we need to address. That enabling environment is not there. So you can bring in icing. I mean, the money that NCDC, CBN is bringing is like icing on a very rotten cake. That's what we're doing in this country. Over.
Thank you very much, sir. I know there are so many questions about local production of vaccine, and I think you have answered the question quite correctly, because you have to also take care of other problems. But someone is asking about the requirements. Is Nigeria planning to have a COVAX passport requirement? And then someone is talking about why are children totally excluded from Nigeria's COVID vaccination?
Okay. I will give you a quick answer to that one. I think it is the wrong thing to call it vaccine passport. That's a wrong notation. It is a vaccine card. You have yellow fever card. You don't call it yellow fever passport. So we started with the wrong connotation, and that's why we're having problems. Many of you have traveled out with your yellow card. Did they call it yellow passport? No. So we use this COVID, it's going to be COVID card. That's what it should be. Don't call it vaccine passport. That's the first error we're making. I think we need to focus on that one. Why are children not involved? Because the trials that were done did not include children. So they don't know what is going to happen in children. That's why now. But I'm told that in some of the trials are now going on with children, with pregnant women. And we are waiting the result of that. I'm sure once those results are out, then we'll be able to take it, we'll get children involved. Over.
Thank you very much. Lastly, I want to call on Dr. Garba to please address some of the questions that have been raised. There are some that have been raised about the coverage, that if we are planning to cover 70% by in 2022, when? Is it May, June, or December? And then about the issue of there's been a comment on, please comment on the colossal failure of the e-registration in Lagos. So Dr. Garba, over to you, please.
Thank you very much. While the Professor Tomori was answering questions, I was also busy answering some of the questions that were stated on the question and answer sessions. Like someone says, yes, a Niger State governor was indicated to have been immunized, but the data showed 0. I quite agree with him. So what happened is to do with uploading of those immunized. So in Niger, the network was not good enough for them to upload. But as I'm talking to you, immunization is ongoing, and we have sent an EMID officer, electronic registration officer, that is going to give some internet support to Niger State so that all the backlog data is going to be uploaded into the server. Then somebody was asking question whether we decided to use AstraZeneca vaccine and whether the cost is related with the quality, indicating that whether the other vaccines are of high quality, that is why they are more expensive. And I said clearly, it is not only that. The AstraZeneca vaccines have shown some human face. They have shown some humanity. They said at this pace, they are not willing to look for profit. Therefore, it is humanitarian support that they are providing to collectively now fight the pandemic. That is why the price is low. It is not to do with quality at all. And then the issue of failure of electronic in Lagos, I don't think that is true. In as much as, yes, this is the first time we're using the e-platform to register immunization, especially for campaigns. And of course, anything you are starting newly, it must have some challenges, of teasing. So that is what is happening. And for Lagos, they wanted to use their own private platform to do that. And we believe that shouldn't be allowed because we're not sure. You can see in our presentation, we mentioned the issue ICPC, EFCC, and other security agencies, just to ensure that we are giving Nigerians the right vaccines. We don't want a situation when a state will have an opportunity to go and be on their own, and before we realize it, the vaccines are already in the private hands. You see, so once the vaccines reach the private hands, now there is no control of quality. You are not sure. You are not sure which vaccines do they give. You see, so it's because of that accountability issue. And remember, we are dealing with a novel virus, therefore a novel vaccines, of which nobody knows the long-term, effects that will arise. Everybody is learning. The whole immunization of COVID-19 started somewhere around November, December. So just less than 6 months. You see, so this is something that we are learning, and therefore we have to be very, very, very careful. We have to very sure a strong pharmacovigilance activities, as well as all other measures that will ensure that the right vaccines go to the right people at the right time. So I think that is one of the major issues. But for the electronic platform, it's not only Lagos. It is fluctuating elsewhere, and as I said, this is something that is being started, and we have a team from APINET, from WHO, and from HSIV that are working day and night to ensure that it is optimized. I assure you, if you call Lagos now, they will tell you the situation is different. Every day is improving. Like Kasina said yesterday, they were able to immunize and effectively and timely download 4,000 health workers. 4,001. In Kasina yesterday alone. So it is an issue that is working with the evolution of the COVID-19 registration vaccines. And I think I also answered several other questions that are on the platform. Otherwise, I've not seen any question that require my own attention for now. But all the others, I think I responded on the platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garba. But I want to point out 2 questions I want you to answer. Why are teachers and lecturers not taken as frontline workers? And then the second question, will the need to physically go to vaccination center to report adverse effects following immunization not reduce compliance, especially among elders? Please quickly take those two questions. And the issue of Oyo State. Why is there nothing happening in Oyo State till now? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for these questions. At the strategic group, while we were trying to clearly identify the participants for the first phase, of course, those of the frontline health workers is very clear. We are talking about people from working at emergency, people working at the isolation, and those working at the treatment center. That is very clear. Now, the next group within that same category, the support staff, of course, that one is also clear. We're talking about drivers, ambulance drivers, cleaners, and all these are also at risk. Now, the other group at that same category are the frontline, health workers generally, people like you and me and hospital administrators. And then talking about frontline non-health workers, I think that is where the issue is. So that is where we had a lot of brainstorming session. And to identify the people, we looked at all those guys, like the security people that together with our strategy leaders. Of course, if you are to protect a strategy leader, there's no point when you don't protect the people that are very close to him. So that came in. And of course, if anybody has an issue, the first point of contact is either the police station, or if it is border, the immigration, or if it is airport, the port health people. So that is why we considered the security personnel, the oil and gas, like the petrol servers. In fact, at a point, we were even talking about commercial bus drivers and their conductors. They are also frontline health workers because people come and meet them. So the list is not exhaustible. It is a very long one. For teachers, if you say you are going to add all the teachers, starting from the primary school, secondary school, down to university, what we were afraid of was managing, to manage the crowd at that particular phase. Since we are doing it at the first time, we just wanted to see, to just bite what you can chew for now. That is why we have just taken this group and see how it exists as far as Nigeria exists, as far as the resources are available. Everybody is going to get these vaccines. Whether you are a teacher or you are a farmer. In fact, I even value farmer more because we have to eat first, and maybe because my father was a farmer and I come from the bush. So what I'm trying to say is, irrespective of the profile, people should not get worried that why no teachers.
I think we have lost him.
Yeah.
Yes. Professor Tomori, you want to answer the question on the situation with Oyo State? Thank you.
Yes, that's one, and also on the issue of the trovan, which I said. Somebody had asked, well, what do I mean by trovan? I said, what was used in Kano in 1995, whatever, was not a vaccine. There's a wrong conception that Pfizer came to Nigeria to use a vaccine in Kano. That is not correct. It was a drug called trovan for meningitis. I think we need to get this fact correct outside to our people. Even newspapers, television are saying the same thing, that Pfizer had been here before to test vaccine. It is wrong. And please, that's what I wanted to correct. Regarding the Oyo State situation, I actually followed up. What I was told was that they are testing for sterility. I don't know what that means. That you're going to test for sterility, they got the result for one.
I don't know whether somebody was asked to speak when my network went off. I'm sorry for that.
Okay.
Yes, please. Professor Tomori is speaking. We'll allow you to conclude as you want to finish.
Just to say that what you just said seem to be waiting for is they said test for sterility of the vaccine. And I then told them that the problem may not be of sterility, may not be with the vaccine, but with the vaccination. Most of the problems with sterility are being at the vaccination center, where you use the wrong needle, people have used the same syringe to do that. That's what we should be more worried about than the sterility of the product, which have been approved by both WHO, NAFDAC, and other people. Over.
Thank you very much. Dr. Garba, please continue. I'm sorry. Dr. Garba, are you with us? We have lost him again.
Mm-hmm.
That's technology. Before I go, I want to thank especially all on behalf of the president of the Nigerian Academy of Science, Professor Ekanem Braid, and the member of council and the entire membership. I see we have a lot of guests. Earlier on, we had the secretary of the Zambian Academy of Science with us, and so many other people, news journalists and so on, they are with us online. We want to appreciate you for your time and for taking out time to get educated. I think as scientists, we have the responsibility of disseminating information to correct the wrong impression and the information people have. And I think with the presentation this afternoon, we have been able to see a lot of statistics about what is going on in Nigeria. And we discovered that Nigeria is not, we really need more information. For instance, I find it heartwarming to know we are also expecting some other vaccines apart from the AstraZeneca vaccine. I think that is, it gives hope to the population, to the general populace, that eventually it will get round. Dr. Garba, there's still an important question I wanted to answer about the issue with when in 2020 do you expect 70% of the populace to be vaccinated, and what is the progress, what is being put in place concerning the vaccine? I just want to give you 1 minute so that we'll now round up once you have made your comment. Thank you. Dr. Garba.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much for the second or third opportunity. And let me apologize for the interconnectivity issues. We already planned that we are going to reach 70%.
Okay, we have lost him again. With that, I want to thank all the participants, and I want to hand over to the Executive Secretary for closing. And then thank you very much for the opportunity for me to moderate this program. It's been a great pleasure for me, especially with the distinguished presenters and the guests we have had on this occasion. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Over to you, the Executive Secretary, Dr. Odubanjo. Thank you.
Well, thank you, man. So I think that brings us to the end. It's just to thank you for the excellent moderation, and thank the panelists once again, and thank everybody for coming. And we hope to have more sessions like this. Thank you.
Thank you.